Hi guys, it's Stock Curry, and while I'm out traveling without access to the internet, I've decided to highlight some smaller YouTubers. These are incredible content creators that, for whatever reason, they just haven't quite been picked up by the YouTube algorithm yet. And today, I have invited Perez onto the channel. And whatever you do, do not listen to the advice that Kara is about to give you, because Kara is about to break down the worst financial advice that is out there. So do not listen to this financial advice that Kara's about to give you. It is the worst financial advice ever. And Kara's going to explain why this financial advice that's pretty common knowledge is terrible advice and why you should not listen to it. It's a fun video. I know you're going to love it. Without further ado, here is Kara Perez. And if you like what she has to say, there is a link to her channel in the description of this video. Please go down to the description or first comment of the video, head on over to her channel and subscribe to her page. Welcome, Kara, to the channel.
What's up, y'all? I'm Kara Perez, founder of Bravely Go, and in today's video, I am going to be dismantling the worst pieces of toxic financial advice that, for some reason, just won't die. The landscape of American culture and the landscape of American finances have changed drastically in the last 40 years, and in some ways, even more drastically in just the last 2 years. We have lived through a pandemic. It is still ongoing. The 2008 recession absolutely changed everything about how we work, how we earn money, how we house ourselves, and what a career is here in the United States. So for some of these pieces of advice that originated in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, they just do not apply to how we live today. The financial lifestyle that was available to our parents and grandparents is simply, in a lot of cases, no longer available to most millennial and Gen Z. The financial markers that we consider benchmarks of adulthood are largely still the same: buying a house, getting a job, saving for retirement. But the path to get there has become much more difficult. Here are 6 pieces of toxic financial advice that need to die ASAP. 1. Start at the bottom and your hard work will be rewarded with raises and promotions. While it did used to very much so be the case that you could work at one company for 40 years and work your way up the corporate ladder, that is no longer true in almost any industry. Training on the job used to be the norm, so you could start as a cashier or as a cleaner, receive on-the-job training, receive mentorship, and work your way up in the ranks of one specific company. But you are expected to show up to any job, even internships in some industries, already having a skill set in place. Additionally, things like company pensions have been almost entirely eliminated. Only 3% of private companies in the United States offer pensions. So there's really not much reason to stay at a company for 40 years. Your pay is actually more likely to be lower if you stay at one company for 40 years, as opposed to switching companies over the course of your career. Annual raises at a company are often in the 1 to 5% range, and those are designed just to cover cost of living increases, whereas switching companies has been proven time and time again to be able to net people a 10, 20, even 30% pay raise. Increasingly, companies also rely on the gig economy, aka 1099 workers, instead of W-2 workers, to fill the ranks of their employees. That means their employees are not eligible for things like health insurance or retirement benefits, thus again making switching jobs much more attractive. 2. Don't take that pay raise because you'll pay more in taxes. Oh my gosh, if I had another dime for everyone who didn't understand the progressive tax structure, I would be a gazillionaire by now. In the United States, we have a progressive tax structure. What does that mean? Don't let your eyes just glaze over simply because I've mentioned taxes. Stay with me because this is really, really important for your wealth building. Look, I understand you don't want to pay taxes. When I look at our military budget, I don't want to pay taxes either. But we also have to pay for our roads and our public education and our libraries. You know, give me libraries or give me death. Passing up on a raise because you think it's going to cause you to pay more in taxes overall is often the wrong decision, because having a progressive tax structure means that you are not taxed on every single dollar you earn the same exact way. For example, let's say you're single and you make $40,000 a year. That puts you very close to the top of the 22% tax bracket, which caps out at $40,526. If you get a raise to $45,000, you will still be taxed the same on your income up to that $40,526. Only what you make above that, meaning only $4,474, is going to get taxed at a higher rate. So take that raise. Earning more money is the #1 way to change your financial life. Bad advice number 3, we don't need to raise the minimum wage because that's what I made when I was your age. Lord, grant me strength. Every time I hear this piece of advice, which is frankly all too often, my blood pressure goes from 0 to 60 in 1 second flat. I do not care what you made in 1976 per hour, because it's not 1976 anymore, and almost nothing about our financial lives looks the same in 2022 as it did in 1976. People are spending more than 30% of their paycheck on housing. Entire industries have been created and collapsed since you were a fresh-faced 22-year-old out there making the minimum wage. I mean, the internet didn't even exist in 1976, and now the internet is a requirement for most jobs. Often, older people will use this piece of advice as a way to talk smack about younger generations. They'll incorporate this piece of advice with phrases like, people just don't want to work anymore, or young kids don't know the value of a dollar, which completely ignores the economic factors at play here, such as rising cost of living and inflation. The minimum wage in 1976 was $2.30. Adjusted for inflation, that would be $11.55 in 2022 dollars. Federal minimum wage remains at $7.25 an hour. So yeah, Grandpa Joe, we actually do need to raise the minimum wage just to get it to the same amount of money that you were earning in 1976. People in America used to be able to buy houses on minimum wage, and now you cannot rent out a 2-bedroom apartment in any of the 50 states on only minimum wage, working 40 hours a week. Number 4, buying a house is always a good financial idea. As someone who is currently trying to buy a house, I have absolutely no problem with the idea of homeownership. But I do have an issue with the idea that home ownership is A, the only path to wealth, and B, always a good financial idea, especially given the absolutely insane housing market we are living through right now. There are cities in this beautiful country of ours that have seen 20 and 30% housing appreciation over a single year in the last 2.5 years. Normally, that kind of increase would take a decade. And that is putting the ability to buy a house out of reach for a lot of people, especially millennials and Gen Z. According to data from rent.com, the average rent for a 1- and 2-bedroom unit is up over 35% in the last year alone. We cannot survive a housing market where housing prices and value is growing exponentially, but the ability to buy a house and pay is not keeping pace with that. If housing prices are growing by an average of 10% each year, but the buying power of a dollar is decreasing 3% each year, we're gonna run into problems. Number 5, 401ks are all scams. I hate this piece of advice, and you often see it on kind of like finance bro TikTok. And I hate it not so much because I'm like a diehard lover of 401ks, but because it is wildly damaging and misleading. This piece of advice is rooted in the idea that 401ks often come with really high fees and limited investment options. Because a 401k plan is set up by your company and the 401k provider, you as the individual have less control over the fees you're paying and what type of investments you can put your money into through the plan. Another big criticism of the 401k is that you can't access the money in most cases without paying fees and taxes before age 59 and a half. So the phrase has emerged, I'm not sure where, I don't know who originated this, that 401ks are scams. Listen, limited options and potentially high fees do not a scam make. Perhaps a 401k is not the best retirement account for the largest amount of people. I could actually get behind a statement like that. But that doesn't mean a 401k is a scam. The reason 401ks are so common in workplaces is because companies stopped supplying pensions in the 70s and 80s and replaced them with 401k plans. 401ks are the easiest and most common way that most Americans have access to the stock market and thus have at least a chance to build wealth. And finally, 6, you should buy gold as an inflation hedge. You often hear this piece of advice as inflation goes up or as people are feeling insecure about the state of the economy. And fair enough, in uncertain financial times, it makes sense that people are looking for a sure thing. But gold is not that. Gold doesn't provide any inherent protection against inflation. For example, gold investors lost 10% on average from 1980 to 1984, when the annual inflation rate was about 6.5%. Similarly, gold yielded a negative 7.6 return from 1988 to 1991, a period when inflation was about 4.6%. The common thought behind you should buy gold when inflation is high is that gold holds its value and will grow over time, and that gold is, since it's more tangible, it's a way of kind of beating the uncertainty that is going to be going on in the stock market when we're in uncertain financial times. But actually, gold consistently underperforms the stock market. From 1990 to 2020, the price of gold increased by around 360%. Over the same period, the Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 991%. That's a huge difference in performance. I'd rather have that extra 600% in my investment account, personally. That's it, y'all. Make sure to hit subscribe before you leave. And drop any of your favorite pieces of toxic advice in the comments so we can all slay these demons together.
Thank you, Kara, so much for that incredible information. If you like what Kara had to say, make sure you go subscribe to our channel. There is a link to our channel down in the description of this video, as well as the first comment below. And make sure to comment down below as well. Let me know if you like this type of content, if you want to see more content like this. And don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon.